I'm Erica. Standing in the middle of my once beloved apartment, now a battlefield of broken glass and upturned furniture, I clutch my mother's tattered wedding veil to my chest. The rain still pours in through the shattered window, drenching the velvet sofa I'd spent a fortune on, washing away the remnants of a life I thought was secure. Just a short while ago, I was arrested. The lead detective approached me with handcuffs, accusing me of attempted murder and grand larceny. It was a nightmare. Mark, the man I was supposed to marry in a few months, played the victim so convincingly, pointing at his bloody jaw and claiming I'd gone crazy. But then, Detective Red stepped out of the shadows. Detective Reed, the head of the white-collar crimes unit I'd been working with secretly for the past 3 weeks, saved the day. She showed that the video on the USB drive, which was supposed to incriminate me, was a deep fake that Mark had uploaded just 10 minutes ago. She also revealed that they'd bugged the apartment for 72 hours and knew all about the scheme. Mark's newfound family, mostly his mother, Cassandra, and my sister Lily, were in on it. Cassandra, a wealthy but manipulative woman from an old money family, had her sights set on my high credit score and assets. Lily, who was 10 years younger than me, had always felt overshadowed by my success. My life had been a whirlwind of hard work. I'd become a well-paid surgeon at a prestigious hospital. Through long hours and sacrifices, I'd managed to afford a beautiful apartment in the heart of the city. That's where I met Mark. Mark was charming at first. With his kind smile and gentle words, I quickly fell in love. He moved in with me 6 months ago. I was blind to his financial troubles, paying off his gambling debts of $50,000 so Cassandra wouldn't find out. One fateful evening, after a grueling 12-hour double shift at the hospital, I came home. The rain was pelting down, a cold, relentless downpour that soaked through my coat. All I wanted was to kick off my heels, pour a glass of wine, and relax on my sofa. But when I tried to unlock the door, something was wrong. The key wouldn't turn. It was then that I noticed the lock had been changed. It was a shiny, cheap brass lock, completely out of place on my designer door. Panic set in. I pounded on the door and called out for Mark. Finally, he opened it a crack, the security chain still engaged. His eyes were cold and distant, nothing like the warm eyes I was used to. Behind him, I heard the clinking of silverware and Cassandra's high-pitched laugh. "Mark, let me in. I pay the rent. This is my home," I pleaded. But Mark claimed that Cassandra thought the environment wasn't good for their future family, and she was helping him reorganize. I was in shock. I reminded him that I'd chosen the paint, bought the furniture, and paid all the bills. He'd come to me with nothing but a suitcase and a mountain of debt. But he didn't seem to care. Then, Cassandra appeared at the window of my bedroom. She was wearing the silk robe Mark had given me for our anniversary. With a sickeningly sweet smile, she started throwing my things out the window. First, it was my mother's wedding veil, the only thing I had left of her. The box tumbled out, hitting the wet pavement, and the delicate lace soaked up the filthy rainwater. After that, it was my designer heels, my medical textbooks from years of study, and my framed photos. Mark stood there, expressionless, as if he were a puppet being controlled by Cassandra. When I confronted Lily, who was also in on the betrayal, she looked at me coldly. "You always had everything, Erica." Cassandra offered me a future, a way out of student loan debt. "She's giving Mark a better life away from your nagging." Mark then dropped a bombshell. Lily was pregnant with his child. Cassandra had bought the building for their new family, and they claimed I had to earn my way back into their so-called family. But I had a secret weapon, a USB drive I'd found in my broken handbag. It was labeled the truth about the purchase. I knew then that Cassandra was up to no good. She'd spent all her money on her husband's legal fees before he died in prison. I went back into the apartment, determined to expose them. When I plugged the USB drive into my laptop, I discovered a folder labeled Project Erica. Inside was a video showing Cassandra and Mark conspiring in my bedroom. They'd been slipping a slow-acting drug into my coffee and tea to make me seem stressed and unstable, so I'd sign away my assets without question. Mark and Cassandra were furious when I confronted them. Mark lunged at me, but I used the laptop to defend myself. Lily ran to get the forged documents from the safe, but I was faster. I broke the window and screamed for the police. Just as Mark was about to silence me with a pillow, the police arrived. But to my horror, they were initially led to believe Mark's lies and tried to arrest me. That was when Detective Reed stepped in. She showed that Cassandra had taken out a predatory loan in my name using a forged power of attorney. Mark had also been lying about the trust fund. In fact, he'd been seeing a fertility specialist for a year and was sterile. Lily wasn't pregnant with his child, they were just using her as a pawn to break my spirit. In the end, Mark, Cassandra, and Lily were all arrested. The apartment was in ruins, but I was free. A few months later, sitting in my renovated apartment, the phone rang. It was the prison's legal department. Lily wanted to see me. I looked at the old photo of us at the beach and then threw it in the trash. I didn't answer the phone. I stood at the door, turning the new deadbolt. For the first time in my life, I knew that I was the one in control. I was alone, my heart broken, but I was finally free from the web of lies and betrayal. The rain outside had stopped, and a new day dawned. I stepped out into the sunlight, ready to rebuild my life.